Hey fight fans, welcome back to the Fight Book. This is the Indian Action Guy back with some massive fight announcements and big fight updates. Today we have updates from Ngannou versus Jones. Yes, Ngannou showed interest in fighting Jon Jones. Moreover, Pereira versus Anklaev 2 timeline, Dricus du Plessis, first duck, Ian Garry versus Belal Muhammad in Madison Square Garden, Yair versus Lopes at Noche UFC, massive fight announcements for next Riyadh season card, and 3 big fights cancellations. So without wasting any time, let's start the video. Let's start it with Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones. What really happened is that Francis Ngannou's head coach gave an interview where he said Francis Ngannou is open to returning to the UFC, and as enough time has passed, he thinks it's more about business than it is about ego, even for the UFC. As soon as he released this statement, Jon Jones says that he is interested in a fight with Francis Ngannou. After all those years of ducking, now he wants to fight Ngannou. LOL. If you don't remember, I tell you that he ducked Francis Ngannou, stating the same reason that he is ducking Tom Aspinall, saying that he wants more and more and more money. Anyway, Ngannou responded to Jon Jones' tweet entertaining a fight with him if Ngannou returned to the UFC, and he says, "You take care of the UFC and I will take care of the PFL, and we will finally find out who is the king of the heavyweights." He basically said, "Stop ducking Tom Aspinall." Anyway, the official poster of the heavyweight fight headliner UFC Nashville July 12th card has been released, and the official bout order for the light heavyweight headliner between Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree for UFC Baku June 21st has also been announced. The light heavyweight bout that everyone wants to see, Alex Pereira versus Magomed Anklaev 2, is also possible in September, October or November, as Alex Pereira is eyeing his return sometime in that time frame. Pereira said nothing is confirmed yet, but he is ready to go anytime during that time frame. Anyway, if we move down to the middleweight division, the middleweight champion Dricus du Plessis has told RMC Sports Combats that if Khamzat Chimaev pulls out more than 2 weeks out from UFC 319, then he has no plans to go ahead and fight the backup fighter Nasruddin Imavov, who is currently ranked at number 1 in the UFC middleweight division. He will only fight Imavov if Chimaev pulls out within 2 weeks of the fight. Imavov fires back on DDP's statement, reminding him that he is not Jon Jones. If he is not ready to defend the belt, he should leave the place. Now let's further move down to the welterweight division, where Ian Garry out of nowhere called out Belal Muhammad. Sean Brady was calling him out for weeks, and now he suddenly called out Belal Muhammad instead of responding to Brady. Belal wasted no time responding to him and says, "I will see you in Madison Square Garden." The MSG pay-per-view is going to be UFC 322 in November, so if that fight really gets made for that event, it is going to be huge for the welterweight division. Anyway, let's move further down to the lightweight division, where Gilbert Burns in a recent podcast says that he is eyeing a match with Michael Chiesa next. If you don't know, Chiesa is fighting next week against Court McGee, and if he wins, Burns vs Chiesa would be a good one for both of them, and especially for Gilbert Burns, who really needs a win. Anyway, we also have an interesting call out in the featherweight division, where Diego Lopes called out Yair Rodriguez to fight at Noche UFC in September. He says he is available for Noche UFC to face Yair Rodriguez, and he thinks it's a fight that everyone wants to see. Now let's talk about the bantamweight headliner that is happening tonight, O'Malley versus Merab 2. The next potential contender for the winner of tonight's bout, Corey Sandhagen, says a potential bantamweight title fight between himself and Sean O'Malley is the biggest fight at bantamweight right now, but he also hopes that Merab Dvalishvili beats Sean O'Malley again at UFC 316, because he thinks that O'Malley would not accept a fight against him, and Merab is the guy who would definitely take a fight against him. Anyway, the women bantamweight champion Juliana Pena shared a wild story from her early fighting days. While working as a food expeditor with a 3-0 UFC record, Pena got into a heated workplace rivalry with a 6'3" male line cook. It escalated into a full-on street fight behind the restaurant, where Pena got dropped 3 times by him. She says every time she popped back up, but ended up with a swollen eye shut for 3 days and 11 stitches. The fight taught her a brutal truth that she should not fight a man. Moreover, alongside with Corey Sandhagen, Amanda Nunes was also present in the Q&A where she gives her prediction for the co-headliner of UFC 316. Nunes believes Juliana Pena will drag the fight to the scorecards but ultimately lose the decision to Kayla Harrison. Nunes also says she will return to the UFC regardless of who wins the UFC 316 co-main event. In addition to confirming her UFC comeback, Nunes indicates that her return is not a one-off. She says as long as her body can handle, she is going to be there. And then last news from the UFC 316 is that Donald Trump is also reportedly expected to attend UFC 316 tonight. In a random update, we have update from Nick Diaz, whose girlfriend is claiming that Nick is being held against his will at Baja Rehab in Mexico, where he is being drugged and is essentially allowed no communication with the outside world. She also claims that UFC and Nate Diaz are allegedly paying for Nick's rehab. Nick escaped from the rehab and was brought back on more than one occasion, and Nick has been estranged from his family for the majority of their relationship. And that was all from the UFC. Now, if we talk about the boxing world, we have massive announcements from the Riyadh season, who announced their next card for August 16th in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, which will be headlined by Moses Itauma versus Dillian Whyte. Itauma will look to reach contender status as he is in the process to finalizing a deal to meet Dillian Whyte on August 6th. At least it's somewhat of a name, and after Itauma ices him, he can finally be gone for good. Moreover, the co-headliner of the card will be Nick Ball defending his WBA featherweight title versus Sam Goodman, who was set for his first title shot, a meeting with Naoya Inoue in Tokyo in December, but that was cancelled when he suffered a cut over his eye in sparring. The 26-year-old returned last month with a stay-busy decision win in Australia. If we talk about Ball, he is defending his featherweight belt for the third straight time against a super bantamweight. Lastly, the third feature bout of the card will be between former champions, where Anthony Kakachi will face Raymond Ford in a coin flip high-stakes super featherweight bout. The winner of this one would really deserve a title shot. Now let's talk about Keyshawn Davis, who last night got stripped. The two sides initially agreed to move forward with the fight with the condition that Keyshawn would not have been able to weigh more than 150 pounds at a second day weigh-in at 9 a.m. De Los Santos and his handler later prioritized safety and decided not to go through with the fight. They had not come to an agreement on Davis' financial penalty by that point, as De Los Santos will be paid his entire purse, so if you can get your whole purse without fighting, why would you fight? The biggest loser here is ESPN and Top Rank, with the refunds, management change, and still having to pay De Los Santos. So the cusp of the case is that tonight's Top Rank main event between Keyshawn Davis versus Edwin De Los Santos has been called off due to Davis missing weight by 4.3 pounds. In the result, Abdullah Mason versus Jeremiah Nakhatlia will be the new main event. Well done to De Los Santos for not letting himself get pushed around. Hope he can get in the mix again soon, now after ruining Davis' homecoming. It's a nice lesson for Davis, who was laughing shamelessly after missing his weight and was way too arrogant. Moreover, another card bout of boxers Simpson vs Zuko card between WBA number 9 ranked super lightweight Adam Azim versus Eliot Chavez is also cancelled. Chavez has been pulled out due to concerns over his use of a Suana, which is prohibited there to make weight. Anyway, tomorrow night's fights are good to go, as Gento Nakatani and Ryosuke Nishida made weight, plus Jairo Petaya and Claudius Keo also made weight. With that being said, you are again completely up to date with the fight world. Now you are supposed to do only one thing: like this video, share your thoughts in the comment section, and do tell me, is Joe Pyfer hairline is the biggest comeback in the combat sport?
One of the biggest comebacks in sports is your hairline. Do a lot of fighters ask you about it because it turned out really well?
I don't know if that's an insult or not.
No, that was a compliment.
I'm gonna remember your motherfucking face now.